Sue Armstrong creates music, or Susan Armstrong, sorry, creates music and visual art under the name of Seahorseseeker, which we play her music extensively. I think it's, I think one of the songs has been used as an anthem now. Her music blends narrative, emotion, and imagery to explore themes of healing, resilience, nature, and the human experience, with a lifelong love of words and a great wordsmith. Sue has been writing poems, stories, and songs since childhood. Sue writes all of her own lyrics and develops the story and emotional arc of each song herself. Now, she uses AI-assisted music tools, which is fine, to especially get over a message so well, and explores different musical styles, arrangements, instruments, and vocal options until she finds the sound that best captures the feeling she wants to convey. First of all, Sue, thanks for joining us. We actually just need your microphone on.
Sorry about that. Thank you.
That's right. But it was great. We could go lip reading. First of all, I've got to congratulate you on your newest song. It's just fantastic. Tell me what you were reflecting on, the lyrics, because they're what what others are saying. The facts don't speak for themselves at the moment. They're not facts. They're just propaganda from the ISC and the government and all the others that support the killings. Tell us about this song and what it actually means.
Yeah, hi Mike. Thanks for that. The song, as you know, I got involved in the brumby discussion back in early June when my friend raised this to me and when I wrote my very first brumby song. And on the back of that, there was a lot of reach out from people, not just in Australia, all over the world. And it's been incredible to have had such different conversations with so many different people. And on the back of the conversations and the getting so involved in this, it's because I've had thousands and thousands of messages. It's been incredible. I think the song's had over 1 million plays now. It's it's phenomenal. The definite sense on the ground was that there was a lack of transparency, and so I kind of dove a bit deeper and became very curious. And as part of that, one of the things that really stood out to me was that there was definitely a lack of transparency. And as I dove deeper and deeper, I was kind of looking at various different reports that were cited, and one of the things that I noticed was that a report would point to another data point that was in another report that would, and when you follow the actual you get back to the actual data point, which was tracing that back was a bit of a task. The data points were not affirmative, so they would say things like may cause or are likely to cause. And so I think it just became very apparent as I kind of like looked at the various different aspects of this. Looked at the numbers, looked at the various different evidence. There's a lot of people that cite the corroboree frog, but if you actually look at the primary cause of the corroboree frog being impacted, it's actually the fungus, and it's also climate change. So horses absolutely may cause damage to the frog, for sure. However, the primary cause is definitely the fungus and the climate change. So I kind of I very much got the sense that the right questions, in my perspective, and many other people have the same perspective and share that view, that the right questions are not necessarily being asked. And in my initial song, I took the perspective of a brumby. The stories about the stallion on the mountain. I think many people will have listened to the song, and it's what I wanted to then do now was to kind of take a different perspective and to write a song that was still from the perspective of brumby, but it was very much focused on asking the questions. So basically, I'm asking the decision makers, or the brumby's asking the decision makers, to really think about the questions that they are asking. Because One of the things I read recently, and I've done a lot of research into this space, but it's interesting that there was a article that said good public policy should withstand robust questioning. And so it's about ensuring that government decisions are based on comprehensive evidence, independent scrutiny, and transparent governance. And one of the things that I think is interesting as well is that a lot of the evidence and a lot of the independent scrutiny, if you then peel that back, like the layers of an onion, what I'm finding and what I'm seeing is that these independent bodies are not necessarily truly independent. So I guess my song really is about encouraging those questions to be asked and encouraging those decision makers to take the time to do that. And it was really lovely just to kind of recap on the discussion that was held yesterday in Parliament, which I dialed into and watched that from home. I did want to be there, but sadly I've got a boot on my foot, so I wasn't able to be there in person. But it was really great to hear Tanya Thompson speak about the fact that we need to pause for evidence, and it's incredible that there's 22,000 people in Australia that signed the petition. And more broadly, there's people all over the world that are absolutely up in arms about this. But it's really interesting to look at the types of questions that that should be asked. And if the government is making the right decision, then back to the case before, that public policy should not withstand robust questioning. So I think it's very fair to ask questions around the stewardship, ask questions around, how do they measure the outcomes, ask questions around, the transparency, how are they determining the priorities? I've got so many questions here, right? But that was kind of the rationale behind the song. And interestingly, you look at other situations, what baffles me is that most anybody making a decision ordinarily would have to have a decision based on strong evidence. And it's interesting that there are a number of other cases, because I was curious to see what else, what other situations out there have had the same type of scrutiny, and did the government stop and pause? And yes, they have done. The government has stopped and paused on other issues like this. One of them, as an example, was the Robodebt Royal Commission back in 2023. And if you look at the one of the reasons that they did that, I'm just looking back at my notes here, but basically what they identified was the interpretation and the methodology. There was issues in those things, and that comes back to my point earlier on about the scientific distinction. When someone says it can cause damage, and then when they then take that to be the primary cause of decline. So it's kind of like the misrepresentation of data. A lot of the cases that I reviewed, they basically, what they called out was that the assumptions were not sufficiently tested. There was conflicting evidence that wasn't always adequately explored. The independent scrutiny came too late. The transparency was limited. The alternative interpretations were not fully considered, and the decisions were made and implemented before the uncertainties were resolved. And there's so many parallels, right? That's what I found. So that's where the song came from. That's kind of why I've become very passionate about the governance side of things, and that really for me is the reason that I wrote the song and sharing the song.
It was interesting. Yesterday we spoke to Claire Rogerson, who knows the Brumbies probably as well, if not better than most. And she was saying yesterday that there are none left anyway, just the peripherals. If that's the case, Australia is just dismantling its record. It did that with COVID, with lockdowns. Now it's doing this with the Brumbies. What is it with Australians wanting to kill?
I don't understand it either, but I think there's a lot of drive here. If you think about it, there's a lot of influence from the Invasive Species Council, and I understand and appreciate that they have a job to do, but their job predominantly is to kill. And I do think there's a lot of focus on that. And I do believe as well there's a bit of a hyper focus on the brumbies. And it was interesting, I read in one of the, I can't remember which report, the 2006 report that was around the whole of the environmental flora and fauna. The only reference, yeah, that was the Kosciuszko National Park Management Plan, that's it. The only reference to any action was brumbies. It was interesting that there was no other actual cited that I found reference to any other action. So I think there's definitely a hyper focus on the brumbies, and there's definitely a hyper focus on killing. And there are some beliefs that there may be a follow the money issue there. And I think these are the things, these are the questions that really need to be asked in terms of understanding any of the financial gain, and are there any other things that are influencing the decision in any way. So I do believe that there's a lot of questions that really should be asked around the governance side of things.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to step over the line here a little bit. We, in our past life, and I still do personally, we're about to bring back some of our past life back to life very shortly with the Pulse. But the killing of innocent people in Gaza, whether you're an Israeli fan or a Palestinian fan, to me it had no bearing at all. It was the killing of innocent people, and the terror that they would have felt seeing their parents or these young children being carried away, half of the child, because I saw the photo of a child being carried away by the father that had panned out, that he'd lost his entire torso. So it was just the horror that you would go through. And I moved that across to the horses, because the horses, one, it's all lies, very similar to what's happening overseas. It's all lies. And these animals, these are living beings. They've got families, they think, they know the history that they partake. And if you go right back then to the First World War, which shows you we have this propensity to kill. After we always play at the start the Battle of Beersheba, a song we always have because I think it's very important that we don't forget our history. But our history also doesn't talk a lot about 130,000 horses were basically killed. And a great number of those, if not all of them, or most of them, sorry, they were, after the war was won, they couldn't bring them back. Oh no, can't bring them back. So they shot them all. They put them into pens and shot them all.
That's horrendous.
And we continue to do the same thing. Shoot them, kill them. And I don't care. There's a lot of politics I'm finding in this part of the woods too. We had that with the other part. But I don't care. I don't care about the politics. I don't care about the shit that's going on. This has got to stop, because this just shows you that we have not progressed since the caveman days. And in caveman times, they used to eat things because they needed to eat. But otherwise, they didn't kill them. But we do. We just kill them. And, people go out shooting. Look at the shooters. Got to go and shoot a horse. Got to go and shoot a deer. Got to shoot a cat. Whatever. It's got to stop. And I think your music, it's absolutely stunningly important to me. And I think to most people, because with your first track, which we play every day, at the end of the show, we always play it, because it is so important to the emotions, and acknowledging that you don't kill living things just because you want to make money from that particular, that, for example, in the Kosciuszko National Park, you want to make money from. You don't do that. These horses that were shot in the First World War, that is just absolutely pathetic. We should be so ashamed of our dark history there. I mean, you don't do those things. So your music, Sue, I think not only for me, but for millions of people, I have to say it is so important, and for that I thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. I'm glad that it's getting the reach, and it's really lovely to receive the feedback from people when they do connect with me, and I do appreciate all those comments. And I really do hope that, the latest song about are we asking the right questions? I really do hope that maybe prompts people to have a think about, even, for us who are, who believe that flora and fauna and, being acting in a humane way, can be achieved together. I think, I really hope that people do sit back and ask the question, and that, we do get to the point where, we get to a commission, or we get to the next discussion in Parliament. And I do hope that it's a fair discussion. I think that's my other concern, is that, yesterday, it was interesting how the the pro-cull MPs referenced repeatedly how they're being attacked, and how they're having these threats, and there was a lot of things that were involved in the discussion that felt to me that a little one-sided, because actually people who are want to stop the cull, the people who believe that we should stop and pause, we're too getting these similar things. I've had my Facebook account attempted to be hacked multiple times. I've had lots of not so nice messages too, and I think that I do think that I would like to see a very balanced discussion, where I think evidence that is presented fairly, and I do hope that the right decisions are asked, and that people don't just use the information that's out there at the moment, because, as I say, I've seen reports that cite reports, and when the source data is, when you look at the source data, that's where there's a misrepresentation of the data point that's being presented, and a lot of the reports as well are very dated, very that we're talking like 10, 15 years old here and more. And so I do think there's a need to look at currency. I was looking at what's the standard for a report and data that should be used, and it's usually 5 years and no more than 5 years. And if you look at some of these data points and some of the documentation, it is very dated, and a lot of the points often say inconclusive. And I think that in itself, again, begs the question, we need to do more and understand more. You look at the numbers, I find the whole the number situation and the count very fascinating as to how they've reached the number that they have. And I really just believe that the governance is something that really, and these questions really need to be asked, and I think we need to really consider the questions that we are asking as well, and make sure that they are truly ensure that there is accountability and the integrity of the evidence, and making sure that independent assessors are truly independent. I think that that's quite important.
Yeah, I think first of all, stop the killing. Just stop, and then. But there should be no killing. That we don't need to kill in this day and age. We do not need to kill. Science is very good at of helping us if we used it for the right purpose. But we do not need to kill. And as for the overpopulation and destroying the environment, that is pure fabrication. It's just a lie, and it's the end of propaganda. But I could talk forever. I would even let you get a word in. So I do that. I'm going to we'll go into your newest song now, and would like to invite you on. We're going to do lots of new programming shortly. We're going to do a lot more on the horses, not just Australia, but also globally, what they're doing to Mustangs, and the threat to for example, the Dartmoor Hill ponies in the UK. And we're going to also talk to the musicians and people who've been writing these songs, and just to do not a deep dive, but a nice conversation about what drives you and other artists, and what drives these bad people to do what they do. So we're going to dedicate a lot more to what we're doing and expand our programming. So we'd love you to be part of it in some way. I think you're just an amazing person, and it's your fault. It is your fault that I've gone through 48 boxes of tissues. So good on you. And we now have to budget. Mike will only have 10 boxes of tissues a week. I can't help it. I just cannot help it.
I've gone through a lot of tissues too. As I said to you last time, when I put the Michelle and Ian's photographs to the lyrics, and created the video for the song, the first song, I was in tears, and still watch that and still get moved, and I think The photographs really brought the song to life. So I really appreciate the support of Michelle and Ian. But yeah, I've cried a lot too.
It does it to you. Music does that to you. And that's where, they say, kick the emotion out. No. The emotion is a very important part, especially when you're talking about our history and what we stand for. And even though we do have a dark past by killing all those horses, which is just outrageous, but no one really talks about it. We've got to acknowledge it. And that will put us in a better place, because you do not kill these horses. And there's only a handful there now. So we've got to stop it.
And Ian, Mike, the cases I mentioned before as well, interestingly, all of those cases, the government stopped. And that's the thing, right? What I'm really not understanding is, why are we not stopping for this particular case, and why is there this hyper focus on the brumbies? It just beats me. So I really would urge the government and the decision makers to actually consider these other cases where they did stop, where all these points are being raised, with other cases where they actually said, right, okay, we will stop, we will assess the data. I think, I would absolutely urge the government to do that. And I do think, it's amazing that there's 22,000 people signed the petition. And not only that, there's so many other people that are out there doing some doing incredible things, like Ashley Avis, Marianne Nusk, I'll probably say her name wrong, but Marilyn Nusk, there's so many people out there that are doing incredible things who I've chatted with and spoken to on this topic. So amazing that everybody's doing what they're doing, and thank you, Mike, for the amazing coverage that you do. I've seen the incredible stuff you did at the weekend with the rallies. So thank you. It really is appreciated.
Yeah, I think everybody's got their heart in the right place. Sometimes we just need to be more collective instead of being like the French resistance, wanting to claim the glory. There is no glory. The only thing is stop the killing. That's all. Stop it. And then we move on. Thank you so much for your time, Sue. Really appreciate it. We're going to play your new song now here on the Country Telegraph.
Thank you.
Are you asking the right questions? Have you heard the whole story? Have you looked beyond the surface? What have you yet to see? Have you seen the new findings? Have the new numbers changed what you believed? Is there more beneath the silence than the answers you had received? Are you asking the right questions? Can you see the new evidence? Have you paused to question what the plan was built upon? Are you considering every option before more life is taken? Shouldn't certainty be a must? Are you asking the right questions? Is the disparity in the counts enough to call a stop? Before there's no turning back, before more life is taken. Do you know why these valleys became our home? Have you watched us drink from the mountain streams? Have you seen the paths our mothers taught us? Have you asked what we gave back? walk these mountain trails. Could you lead us to a better way? Lead us to a better way. Lead us to a better way.